Hello, and welcome to this week's live Q&A session. So let's start with a little warm-up jam, and then I will say hi to all of my lovely harmonicats. So we're going to play just something nice and groovy in the key of G, just a 12-bar blues. So I'm just going to make sure that I'm perfectly centered and all in the right place. So it looks okay. All right, so starting from the one chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. Going up to the 4. Next to 1. 5. 4. 1. All right, back to the 1. Beginning. Five, 4. One more time. All right, welcome to this week's live Q&A session. So I have to give you a bit of a fair warning. I'm choked up with cold. you might have noticed this. So I'm going to avoid playing harmonica just because it's a little bit gross. And yeah, see if I can answer all your questions with minimum amount of harmonica playing. So I can see we have Dirk saying in bed with cold and fever. Unfortunately, not Saturday night fever. Well, Dirk, I feel your pain. I've been off teaching all week so far, and it's not fun. It's not fun at all. Hi, Paula. Good to see you. Hi, Heinz. Hi, Paul. Hi, Bill. Hi, Ian. Hi, Steve. Hi, Rod. Hi, Bob. Hi, Olaf. Hi, Christopher. Hi, Steve. Thank you very much. I'm feeling okay. It's a lot better than it has been the last couple of days. But it's just that you know how you feel towards the end of the day of having a cold, who's feeling a bit heavy. That's how I feel. But after this, I'm going to go and just make like a vegetable on the couch and watch some movies and drink some honey and lemon. Hi, David. Good to see you. Thank you, Rod. I appreciate that. Hi, Jeff. Thanks, Olaf. Thanks, everyone. Well, it feels like this is going to be the sixth session. We've got a few people not feeling good. So, oh no, Steve's had a cold sore. That's not good. Not good for harmonica. So, well, if anyone is unwell, or anytime you are unwell, or even just unable to play the harmonica, I suggest you check out the lesson I put out today. It was all about how to practice without the instrument, which I think is quite a useful skill to have. I practice quite often on the train when I'm going down to Melrose to teach guitar, because nobody really wants to listen to me practice harmonica on the train. So I do mental practice, and that works really well. So yeah, let's get started with some of these questions. Okay, so David's question. Hi, I'm an advanced beginner month 7. When to articulate? Only when repeating a note? Question mark. That's a great question. So unless otherwise specified, you only need to articulate when you're repeating a note. That said, if you want to specifically get a strong attack on the note, which will be written down in the tab, or you'll hear it, then you'll want to articulate, even if it's just a single one of that note. So, if I was playing something that was kind of really punchy, maybe something like. If I wasn't articulating that 2 draw, I get something more like. It's not quite as. It's not quite as punchy. So that's a choice. And sometimes I might articulate. I might articulate just a line of notes just to make it feel a little bit different. So, for example, I might do a kind of slow run to like through the blues scale, and I'll articulate every single note. So I'll do something like this. And that's quite a fun move to do in the middle of a solo. It kind of builds up that excitement. So yeah, those are the situations for articulation. Articulate for repeated notes and through choice. Okay. Okay, right. Next question from Alexander. Alexander said, weird, I'm out of questions. I started to just break down how my harmonica is into pieces and seeing what parts I need to perfect before moving on. Clean notes and improvisation, perfect all bent notes accurately, listening to melodies, still a lot to polish. Just a quick question. If I don't practice highly technical skills and just focus on self-improvements on very, very basic parts by playing like clean single notes and bends, does it affect my progress? And how does it go stagnant, or will I lose some of my abilities that I've already learned, like some licks, etc.? Will I forget them? That's a really, really good question. So I would say that everything that you've described as very basic parts are actually highly technical. So playing perfectly clean notes and playing perfectly in tune bends, that's kind of it. That if you can do that, then you start doing it faster. Then you challenge yourself in terms of hitting notes in difficult orders. So we all know that hitting a bend straight on is tough. Hitting a bend after hitting a different bend on a different hole is even tougher. So I think you are doing highly technical things by practicing that kind of thing, and you will increase the difficulty as you master them. In terms of forgetting licks that you've already learned, yeah, you can forget licks that you've already learned. It's easy to get them back, but you have to get a lot of repetitions of something before it's completely innate. If I think about something like. So just that beginning lick. That ba-da-da-da-da-da. That I have played thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times. And I mean, literally, this isn't a figure of speech. I have sat and done. And it's still not as fast, it's still not as accurate as I want it to be. But it's one of those licks that is such a standard lick. It's the lick at the beginning of Duke, it's the lick at the beginning of Have a Good Time. It comes back in so many tunes. And it's a great sounding lick, so it's worth putting the time in. So you kind of need to do some work on repertoire kind of maintenance. You need to keep practicing things that you can already play to make sure that you can still play them. But Alexandra, I think you're doing exactly the right thing on focusing on tweaking specific things. I remember watching a video that Jason Ritchie did about the minor pentatonic scale and about how he just sits and practices that. And that's something that everyone can play. It's pretty easy, but he sits and practices that, and he still sits and practices that. And it's Jason Ritchie. if he's doing something, then it must be the thing to do. He is definitely in the top 5 players on the planet, in my humble opinion. So yeah, I think those foundational elements are super important. So I see we have some more people have joined us. We've got Ken and Gina and Bob. Excellent to see you all. Very, very cool. All right, let's have a look. So next question is from Rod. Rod has said, guitar tuner at home says that I'm only getting a C sharp, not a D flat with my attempts on the 1-hole draw half step bend. Do I need to power suck hard like the 2-hole draw full step bend, or is it supposed to be a less intense breath? Rod, I have a very easy answer for this. C sharp is the same as a D flat. It's what's called an enharmonic equivalent. So it's much easier if I demonstrate it on a guitar, because you can actually visualize this. So let's check that you can actually see my guitar here. Right. Oh. Just realized that I'm accidentally going live all around YouTube. Hi, hi YouTube. This is my Q&A session in Tomlin Harmonica School in the forum, but it's great to have you here. Okay, so I'm demonstrating this enharmonic equivalent. So if you take, let's play the note you're trying to play is a D flat. So this note here on my guitar, my 10th fret on a guitar is a D. If I want to turn it into a D flat, I go down 1 fret. So that's down a semitone. Okay. Now, if I want to go from this note here, which is a C, and I go up 1 fret to the 9th fret, that's a C sharp. So down 1 fret is a D flat, up is a C sharp, but they're the same note, okay? So Rod, do not worry, you are hitting the correct note for that bend. It's just your tuner that is calling it a C sharp rather than a D flat. Excellent question. Okay, so next question is from Bob. Bob has said, when doing backup on a song, at times I'd like to add some rhythm / chugging. 1 and 2 blow, 1 and 2 draw, etc. Can you suggest some choices for chugging over the 1, 4, and 5 chords? This is great. So if you want to kind of strictly chug what you've got, strictly chug the same notes that are in the chords, then for the 1 chord, you can chug holes 1, 2, 3, or 2, 3, and 4. So you can get this kind of. And then for the 4 chord, you can play any blow chord, because the way the harmonica is tuned, basically it's a 4 chord all the way up. But I would suggest playing the bottom 3 holes, because that's where you're going to get the kind of the meatiest sound. So there you'd be playing holes 1, 2, and 3, and that would be a nice kind of 4 chord. So there, I switched back to the 1 chord, so doing the 2, 3, 4 draw. So that's the 1 chord and the 4 chord. It's a little bit more complex for the 5 chord, simply because of the way the harmonica is tuned. The 5 chord isn't actually available as a chord, so that's where you're going to have to start kind of breaking out single notes for the 5 chord. So I would suggest breaking out the 1 draw, and you could jump up to the 4 draw. So you could do. If you're a little bit more advanced, you could add in some of the bends of the 5 chord. So you could do the 1 draw, 2 draw half step bend, 3 draw whole step bend. Or you could do a tongue-blocked octave over the 5 chord. So the 1/4 draw octave, that's just the root notes of the 5 chord. That's quite effective. That's a nice thing to do. So yeah, those are some ideas that I would use. Sorry, this is really embarrassing. I need to go and grab some tissue because my nose is starting to drip. I apologize. I'll be right back. Sorry, that's the last thing that you want to see on the time when I'm broadcasting out to YouTube. I apologize. Okay, so let's have a look at questions that have been posted in live. So I'm going to be answering the questions that have been posted in the online Harmonica School forum. It was an accident to be broadcasting live out into the world, but a happy accident. So let's have a look through the questions. So the first question is from Ken. Ken has said, why don't other musicians give respect to harp players? It seems to me that the guitar might be easier to learn. That's a great question. So I think, the guitar isn't an easier instrument to learn. But I would argue that there aren't really easier instruments to learn. There are instruments that are maybe quicker to get started on. I think that the thing that's great with a guitar versus a harmonica is that it's pretty simple to get you to play a single clean note. You know, just making sure that you're putting enough pressure onto that 5th fret there. You know, that's pretty good and pretty easy. But for the harmonica, just getting a single note, as we all know, is a total pain. So I think getting started on harmonica is pretty difficult. Why other musicians don't give harmonica players respect? I think a lot of that has to do with the size of the instrument. I think people sort of equate size with difficulty, and because it's cute, it's little, it can't possibly be that difficult. And another thing I think is that you don't, in general, see a lot of very accomplished harmonica players. It's one of those instruments that a lot of people own but don't actually put the time into practicing and getting any good at. Whereas there are a lot more examples of excellent guitarists or excellent pianists, kind of virtuoso instrumentalists. So people aren't used to seeing great harmonica players out and about. So that's why I think that musicians don't give harmonica players enough respect. So yeah, we need to change that, right? Okay, so Ian has asked, second position, can you play a G major scale starting on a 2 draw? Yes, you can. So you're going to have to add in some bends and some overblows, but it can definitely be done. So let's do this. Making sure that I'm doing this right. So I added in a wrong note. So we have 2 draw, 3 draw whole step bend, 3 draw, 4 blow, 4 draw, 5 blow, 5 overblow, 6 blow. And then that's the G major scale, starting on a 2 draw in second position. All right, so Steve has asked a good question. Does having musicality help? He's put brackets theory. Yes, theory is massively helpful. From my own personal experience, I came to harmonica from guitar, so there was a whole ton of theory that I didn't have to relearn. And so instead of me just kind of learning how to play music while learning how to play harmonica, I was thinking, how do I do this thing that I already know how to do on guitar? And that was based a lot in having a good understanding of music theory. And I think a lot of people overcomplicate what music theory needs to be. I think it's really helpful to understand how chords are built and how scales relate to those chords. That'll help you to improvise. It'll help you to learn music a lot faster. People tend to go down these rabbit holes where they start looking up very, very complex ideas. They look at modal theory. They look at all sorts of interesting time signatures. And realistically, that's not applicable a lot of the time, especially not to blues music. And even if it is, it's not something that you really need to know a huge amount about. But just knowing those fundamentals is really, really helpful and will help you to improve a lot quicker. Okay, right. I'm seeing David agrees with me about Jason Ritchie. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people do. I mean, he's pretty amazing. Still one of those people that I'm desperate to meet and get lessons from and all of that jazz. Right, I see we have Beta watching live. Good to see you. Okay, so next question. In response to today's lesson, I've been listening to the awesome playlist that Richard Greaves posted in the music topic in the forum. I've been hearing when harmonica players play and don't play. I've also been trying to listen to what and why they are playing, keeping rhythm, chugging, playing melody, etc. Are there any other suggestions to listen for in terms of the harmonica player's role in the band? That's a great question. So yeah, listening to what a harmonica player is doing all the way through a song is incredibly useful. Listening to what they're doing when the singer is singing is really, really interesting. Listening to what they're doing when they're soloing is really interesting. And the thing that I find fascinating is when a harmonica is accompanying another soloist, other than the singer. I was listening to Blues with a Feeling, the Butterfield version the other day, and I've always just listened to the harmonica solo. That's all I've really focused on, and all those parts. And then my ear just got caught by what Paul Butterfield is doing during the guitar solo, and it's great. It's so low key. He's just kind of doing these long held root notes, and it's just super subtle, but it fills out the sound really nicely. And to me, if Paul Butterfield was doing something like that, it takes a lot of pressure off anyone as a harmonica player, because we have a tendency to think that we need to be doing a lot of kind of over the top stuff when other people are doing stuff, and really you don't. You can just be holding some nice long root notes and just adding a little bit of texture, and that's really fun. Okay, so next, Ian has said, when I had this lurgy online, Joe Falisco wished me well. My claim to fame this week. That's very cool. Joe Falisco is the nicest guy. I'm not surprised. He's a real sweetie. All right. So Alexander has said, theory is life. Yeah, theory is very, very helpful, most definitely. So Ian has asked a follow-up question. So we play the blues scale as 1 flat third, 4th, flat 5th, flat 7th octave from the G major scale. Yes, absolutely. So anytime you hear those numbers, 1s, 3s, 5s, they're all in relation to the major scale. And if you hear flat or sharp, that means that the original note from the major scale has been altered, either down or up. So if it's a flat third, that means that the third of the major scale is down a semitone. If it's a flat 5, that means the 5 of the major scale is down a semitone. Okay. Right. Loads of people are saying that Jason is awesome. Definitely. David said sometimes less is more. I couldn't agree more, David. Steve said, I believe the harmonica brings color to the music. Definitely. That's the thing. That's what's lovely about harmonica. Harmonica can do the kind of the bass thing. It it can kind of do the rhythmic thing. And it can be a lead instrument. So yeah, you have all of these things at your disposal, which is brilliant. The harmonica is so versatile, and it sounds like harmonica. It's brilliant. All right, so let's have a little look. Any more questions from the school group? Let me know. I'm going to have a little look and see what people are saying over in YouTube land. See, we've got people watching from all over the world. We've got Federico from Argentina, Calvin from Northumberland, Jose from Mexico. This is very cool. Good selection of people. Right. Hello from Texas. Very cool. From the Netherlands. Right. So Marcus said, when you beat that cold, do a Dylan tune. I might do a Dylan tune at some point. We'll see. It's not usually my bag. I'm more into the kind of bluesier stuff. Right. So Ben has asked a question. I finally accomplished overblowing, and I can overblow on the 4, 5, and 6. But the transitions still give me trouble. Can you give me a good example of a song to practice them with? I would suggest practicing your chord arpeggios. So I would practice for the 4 chord. You got 4 blow, 5 blow, 6 blow, 6 overblow. And then for the 5 chord, you have 4 draw, 5 overblow, 6 draw, 7 blow. So you have a good kind of practicing of the 5 overblow and the 6 overblow. The 4 overblow you're going to really practice if you're doing something like a minor blues in first position, or just practicing the blues scale in first position. So that's 4 overblow, 5 draw, 5 overblow, 6 draw, 6 overblow, 7 blow, and that you can just play that instead of playing in second position, and that's always a lot of fun. All right, so let's see. Arno is back in the house. Good to see you. Very cool. So Beta has said, I think you know Beja. Next week on November 28th, he has a concert in Paris. I don't think I do. Beta, send me a link, and I'll see who he is. So Alexander, watch the guy called Missenden Flyer this week. 700 online. That's crazy. So David has asked whether we can do Red House on harmonica. So if you're not familiar with Red House is a blues tune, famously played by Jimi Hendrix. It's a total kind of guitar-a-thon, and I have been thinking about doing it on harmonica. I think that would be great. I love doing guitar stuff on harmonica. I think that'll be a good one. So I'll add it to my my lesson list, which is a long list, but I'll get there. Right. Let's have a look at what people are saying. Someone's asking me to show my feet. I'm not going to show my feet. All right. So let's have a look. Alexander said, what do you throw when you transpose guitar licks and don't have enough notes on the harmonica? Well, you always have enough notes on the harmonica. You just need to play the overblows and the overdraws. What you might need to do is you might need to make sure that you're starting in a slightly different location. So, if you're starting high up on the harmonica and you're running out of notes further up, then start an octave lower. Let's see how that goes. But yeah, all right. So Steve has asked, what about this new harp by Will Wilde? So I just noticed that Will has a signature tuning over at Seidel, but I've not actually looked at what the tuning is. Although he did show me some of his harmonicas last time we hung out, and they were pretty cool. Let me have a look at what the tuning is and see what the thinking is behind it. So what is Wilde tuned? I'm looking up details of the tuning. It's not telling me what notes are. Hang on a sec. I'm going to get the details up. Be patient with me and we will see. So, okay, so details about Wild Rock special tuning. Holes 1 to 5 are exactly the same as standard tuning. Holes 6, 7, and 8 are the same as holes 2, 3, and 4, just an octave higher. Hole 9 is the same as hole 2 octaves higher, and the reeds in hole 10 have been switched around so that the 10 blow bend is now a draw bend. This makes minor pentatonic blues scale runs much easier and means you no longer need to overblow / overdraw to get the flat third and flat 5 in the upper octave. That does sound pretty cool. I might need to get me one of those. I love everything Will does. He's very cool. Minor pentatonic heaven. It's definitely minor pentatonic heaven. Most definitely. Steve has asked if I'd get one. I might get one. I'm always a little bit wary of getting alternate tunings because I'm so used to playing just kind of standard tuning, and I've struggled to play the things that I want to play in it, and so that I feel like my brain is almost hardwired to standard tuning, but you never know. All right. Okay, so like having holes 1 to 6 but with power octaves. That's true. Right, I think we should have another little jam. I'm going to grab the guitar. So I'm just going to do a very straight ahead 12-bar blues in the key of E. And while I'm doing that, if school students can think of any questions that they have, otherwise we will call it a day there. So it's just going to be a 12-bar blues, 12-bar shuffle in the key of E. So you want to grab your A harmonica and play in second position, or you might want to play your D harmonica in third position, or you might even want to play an E harmonica in first position if you're feeling super feisty. All right, so let's try this. 1, 4, 1, 5, 4, 1. Okay, again. Sounding good, guys and girls. Okay, big finish. All right, Alexander has asked, quick question. I'm thinking of using a head strap holder thing for harmonica to play piano while harping. How different / limited is it in regards to normal harp playing? So it just makes certain things a little bit harder. If you think about how carefully you get your position when you're playing with your hands, you kind of make sure that it's all nice and angled up, and it's deep in your mouth, and you're pushing against your mouth to get a good seal. All of that goes out of the window when you use a harmonica holder. and so that makes it harder to do a lot of the quick moves. Also, moving accurately from side to side is much easier if you're moving the harmonica with your hands, whereas when you're using a rack, you need to move your head, and that makes it really, really difficult to be accurate. Doesn't mean it's impossible. There are plenty of great players who do it. TJ Clay is one of the guys that really springs to mind. He's a total beast on the harmonica and plays it while playing guitar. So it can be done. It's just a lot harder. So Christopher has asked, how do I know if a lick will fit over the 1, 4, or 5 chord? For instance, lick 1, month 1 of the advanced beginner course seems to fit over the 1 chord, but it does not contain the root note. I suspect I'm missing something. Okay, that's a great question, Christopher. So as a general rule, anything from the blues scale, any notes that are in the blues scale are going to work over any of the chords. And anything that sounds good works. There are very few exceptions. There are certain notes that are going to sound a little bit dissonant if you play them over certain chords. For example, the clean 3 draw, that's not a blues scale note, that's a major pentatonic note, but that doesn't work very well over the 4 chord. So the main thing is to experiment and play the lick over all 3 chords and listen to it and think, does this sound good? Yes or no? Excuse me. So if you want to play a lick that is very specifically linked to a certain chord, then that's when you start using chord arpeggios. And so you'll start targeting notes within the chord. So for the 1 chord, you have 2 draw, 3 draw, 4 draw, 5 draw. For the 4 chord, you have 1 blow, 2 blow, 3 blow, 3 draw half step bend. And then for the 5 chord, you have 1 draw, 2 draw half step bend, 3 draw whole step bend, 4 blow. So you can target those notes as well as using the notes from the blues scale to create licks, and that'll help you to really hone in on the chord changes. But anything from the blues scale is going to sound pretty good. So I would stick with that, especially as your kind of early stage, kind of month 1 of advanced beginner. Just work through it quite methodically, and as we go through month by month, I'll add in extra notes that you can use. I hope that answers your question, Christopher, and I hope you don't feel like I'm hiding too much from you, but I want you to kind of work through bit by bit. Yeah. Okay. Alexander has asked if I have an exercise for chord arpeggios. I know there are a few notes that's not part of the blues scale over some chords. Yeah, so that's just what I described. So what I would suggest doing is if you go through the 12-bar blues improvisation practice course, and if you go to the advanced intermediate section, you'll see that I've got some chord arpeggios over the chord changes for you to play. And that's what I would do. I'd play them as chord arpeggios. The other thing I would suggest doing is picking one hole and just playing with that hole. So, for example, over the let's just imagine we're doing the three hole. Okay. So over the 1 chord, all of the chord tones that we have on the 3 hole are the 3 blow and the 3 blow. The 3 draw and the 3 blow. Okay. The 4 chord, we have the 3 draw half step bend and the 3 blow. And then the 5 chord, we have the 3 draw whole step bend. Okay. So if you practice just playing 1 hole and use the notes from the chord arpeggio over each change, that will really help you to integrate the chord arpeggios so that you're not just having to play from the start of the arpeggio to the end and then switching arpeggio over each chord. But Alexander said I haven't touched that course yet, so you should have a look at it, and it'll help you definitely. So Bill has asked, do you ever use a chromatic for blues? So personally, I don't, but lots of players do. The most common thing to do is to play in 3rd position on a chromatic harmonica, which puts you in D minor, and that's what you hear most blues players when they're playing with a chromatic will do. There are some exceptions. There are some people who will do more involved chromatic playing, but that's the general rule. It's kind of third position D minor, and it sounds great because you can get some really nice big tongue splits, and it sounds super melodic. But personally, I don't. All right, so I'm going to take one more question from the YouTube audience, and then then we will call it a day. So let's see. I'm just looking through. There are some good questions. Oh, I can't decide. Okay, so someone has asked, TF Spaniel has said, when to use the high G harp versus the low G harp. So I think this is a great question. So I don't own a high G harmonica, but I know why I would want to use one. So if I'm playing a G harmonica and I am playing with a band, there's a tendency for the harmonica to disappear. And the reason for that is that the frequencies that you're playing on the lower harmonica, they're kind of the same frequencies that a lot of the band are playing, you know, the guitarist and the bassist and the drummer. So if I'm doing okay, if I'm doing that stuff and the band's playing it, it kind of gets lost. So at that stage, I would really, really want to play a high G to cut through. So if I, for example, take my F harmonica and you listen to it, when I'm playing by myself, it sounds very thin and shrill. But when you're playing with a band and they're playing all those low frequencies, it sounds sweet and it cuts through. So I think lower key harmonicas sound brilliant when you're playing by yourself, but when you're playing with a band, they quite often get lost. So if you wanted to play second position on a G harmonica, then you might play it on a high G. I know personally, if I'm playing Superstition, if I'm playing it with a band, I do the rhythm riff down there because I am doing the kind of the bass and the guitar part. And then when I'm taking a solo, I grab my C harmonica and I play in third position, and I tend to be up here. And kind of hit those higher notes so that it really cuts through. So yeah, that's the reasons to use a low G and a high G. I don't own a high G. I use third position on a C harmonica, but a high G could be pretty useful. So yeah, right. So I'm going to wish you all an excellent rest of your day. See, Hamish has asked if you can have some more guitar lessons. Yeah, totally, Hamish. Just give me a shout, send me an email. We can do some guitar. So Kevin has asked. I have to answer this because Kevin. I need to give Kevin a massive shout out. So Kevin is asking how I'm getting on with 3D printed combs. So I don't know if you can see this here, but this is a Special 20. It's an F sharp. And this is a 3D printed comb. Big shout out to Kevin for doing this for me. It's fantastic. It makes the Special 20 a lot more airtight, a lot easier to play with a much lighter touch. So Kevin, I am really enjoying it. Yeah, I think I'm tempted to kind of keep tweaking, but it's pretty much there. I think the only thing still would be trying to work out a way to get the reed plates to kind of recess like they do on a standard Special 20. That might be great, but it's really good, and it's definitely a massive improvement on the Stockholm. So yeah, right. I am going to wish you all a lovely rest of your day, and hopefully next time I won't be oozing at you, and I'll be slightly more coherent in my harmonica chat. And yeah, thank you for all your kind words, and I will see you very soon. Happy harping.